Welcome back to the FIT40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy people over 40 so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach for people over 40 since 2015. And today, the mic is jumping up today. Today, we have an awesome topic. We're going to be talking about which type of personal training is actually right for you after 40. Because as we've talked about on this podcast in many episodes, after 40, things change. Like you might need something different compared to when you were 20. Maybe you can't just pick up a program and be like, all right, I'm doing this every single day. Maybe you need that accountability piece. Maybe you need some sort of a group community aspect, some feel like you belong and you can't miss the class or whatever it is. And we're going to dive into all of that today. But before we do, make sure, if you haven't already, pause this real quick and go hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening so that way you don't miss another episode. All right, so which type of personal training is actually right for you after 40? Now, today I'm going to be talking about three main types. There's the traditional one-on-one personal training, there's group, and then there's semi-private or sometimes called small group. Now, a lot of people lump in just signing up for a gym, and that's kind of their idea of their training, but we're not going to talk about that because if you're joining a Planet Fitness or a Lifetime or one of these where you just have a general gym membership, you're basically just renting equipment. Where there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a different service. Because if you're coming for coaching, if you're coming for personal training, that's what we're going to be talking about today, where it's like you get that aspect of, oh, I have a plan, like somebody is curating all of this just for me. And that's what we're going to be diving into. So number one, let's go with traditional one-on-one personal training. So for each one, I'm going to list the pros and cons. So we'll start with the pros. We'll always start with the positives. When it comes to one-on-one, the biggest pro is the fact that you get the most attention. Like you have that person, that trainer to yourself for the entire time. And along with that, there's no annoying people from class. Like I know I've had my fiance tell me like she'll go to an OrangeTheory class or something, like it's a little bit bigger group. And she's like, this one person just drove me nuts the entire time. And when you do one-on-one, you don't necessarily have that unless you have a trainer who's super annoying, in which case you just switch and find a different one. So it's an easy fix. And once you land the right person, it's awesome. So you don't have that to deal with. There's also highly individualized programming. So hopefully you get somebody who knows their stuff, who's very familiar with exactly how to program for you based on your body, based on your injury history, based on your goals, and you get something that is the most direct approach for that. And then on top of that, because of the attention, there's a very low risk for injury. It's not like when you're in a group class and you think you kind of know what you're doing, but then you trip over something or you don't do something right and something hurts. And it's because of that lack of attention where it could have been caught if you were in one-on-one. So this brings a lower risk of injury. Now, that being said, any movement is going to bring some risk for injury. Even if you're with a one-on-one trainer, you might have one of those days where you don't sleep right, you're super stressed, and then you do your normal routine and then, something hurts. Like that stuff does happen. But as far as like stuff that could be caught in the moment, this is the best case scenario for that. If you are very focused on reducing injury risk, whether that's because we're later in life and we really, really want to make sure we don't get hurt, or maybe you have an injury history where you have a lot going on and you're like, listen, I've been through too much pain at this point. I don't want that to happen again. So this is why I'm seeking out help so I don't hurt myself in the gym. If that's a top priority, then one-on-one is probably best case scenario. Then there's cons, like there's pros and cons to both of these. So what are the cons? Biggest one is cost, because most people just straight up cannot afford one-on-one personal training for even one day, maybe 2 days a week, and definitely not for 3 or 4 or 5 unless they are in that like top 10% of earners. At least in my case, like the only people who have been able to stick with it for more than 2 sessions or at a time usually were super duper high earners. And when it comes to like around me, for example, just to put this into context, like I live in Greenville, North Carolina, not exactly like a huge market, but there are trainers in this area that charge as high as $90 a session. And that's just based on a Google search or a ChatGPT search. Like there's definitely some people that go a little bit higher that are mostly word of mouth that maybe don't put their stuff out there for people to see. And then if we were to go back, like where I'm from in New Jersey, and I have friends who trained in New York, like double that, maybe triple that, or I mean, if it's 90, possibly quadruple that per session, depending on your area of the world. Okay. Then on top of that, scheduling can become harder because if you have only a certain time that you can exercise, but that trainer has another client at that time and it's one-on-one, they can't put you in there with the other because they reserve that time. So scheduling becomes a little bit tricky. And if you personally are not much of a talker, it could be a little awkward. Personally, you hear me on this podcast. I can talk. I can chat with anybody. My fiance gives me so much crap about the fact that I can literally talk to a wall. But if you are the type of person that doesn't really like to talk for a whole hour, you got to make sure that number one, you have a trainer that matches that energy. So if you're cool sitting in silence for like 90% of it and they're cool with it and you both have a great time, awesome. It's just a personality fit. But for some people, if you have somebody who is trying to talk the whole time or just keep it at a normal conversational pace, but you're the type that's like, I just want to put my head down and do the damn workout, then it might not be a match. Possibly like kind of like in group class, like you can just put your head down and no one will bother you usually because there's 20 other people. They can focus on them while you do your thing. So that's just one of the things that comes with one-on-one. So those are some quick pros and cons. There's more, but I'm just touching on the big ones that matter to most people. Next is group. Now, you heard me allude to the differences between them, but we're going to go a little bit more into this one. So for the pros, the biggest pro when it comes to group training, like large group training, I'm talking 10, 20 plus people, is it's cheap. Okay. But when we're talking about like exact dollar amounts, I just did a quick search. The big ones that come to mind that are truly like you're getting some sort of a coach during it. There's more services than this, but the two big ones that are in most cities are OrangeTheory and Fit Body Bootcamp. And both of those, like OrangeTheory is anywhere from $80 to $180 a month. And then Fit Body Bootcamp is $150 to $200 a month. And another big pro of this is it comes with a great environment, assuming like this is location dependent because some locations are better than others. But on the whole, most times when you're in a group class, the environment's awesome. Like assuming that the, trainer is not playing garbage, like crappy music that nobody wants to hear other than them, which could be a con because I know, again, my fiance has told me she's been to OrangeTheory classes where the trainer is like some 20-year-old and they're playing gangster rap where she's in her 30s. The rest of the class is 40s, 50s, 60s. They don't want to hear that, but the trainer does. So they're playing it for them, not for the class. And sometimes that can happen. But to pull it back into the pros, okay, if you have a rock solid trainer, coach, lead instructor in there, they can set a really cool environment where everybody's positive, everybody's sweating and smiling and doing their thing. And it feels like a collective, awesome effort with everybody in the class, which also leads to things like making friends, because when you're around more people doing things that you have a common interest in, it becomes that much easier. So if you're like new to the area, you can talk with people, you can chat it up, maybe even get business. I know that there have been people that I coached in the past. They're like, listen, I come here because I get business out of this. So we chat and they end up using my services. I'm like, hey, you do you, bro. Whatever. Everybody's got their thing. And then on top of that, usually it's better scheduling than one-on-one. Now, with that, group classes are not quite like the best when it comes to scheduling because it depends on the group times and when most people can fill the class, because if they're not able to fill the class, they're not going to have that time slot available. So yes, it's going to have more options per day, per week than a one-on-one, possibly depending on how busy that trainer for the one-on-one might be. But it will have more, on the whole, more times than not. Not quite as much as semi-private, but it is still pretty good. And again, that's location dependent. Some places have like a 6 o'clock, then a 10 o'clock, and then a 3 o'clock. And it's like, that's it for the day. And you're like, what the hell? But then other places are like every hour or every other hour, and it's a little bit more manageable. Yeah, and that's that for the pros. Let's go to the cons. So cons are generic programming, because when you are programming for 20 people, it is impossible to individualize every single person to the quality of like a one-on-one trainer. And that's just a limit to the system. So most of the time they'll do like a CrossFit style model where it's like you have your baseline level exercise where it's like, okay, 80% of the class can do this. And then they have a regression and a progression. So if somebody is not able to do that, it's risky, they look like they're in pain, or they just really don't want to do it, then it's like, okay, regress and give them something a little bit easier. Or let's say that they are the top athlete in that class and they're like, God, this is so easy. You're like, no problem. I got a harder version for you. And there's always people like that as well. So it allows for some flexibility. So it's not the end of the world, but if you want individualization, then group might not serve that need the best. Next is the coaching skill varies. So you're not getting that one trainer that is the skill level that they're at. And on the whole, a lot of times one-on-one trainers usually are more experienced, more educated on the subject of training when they are one-on-one versus group, because you can coach an OrangeTheory class, a Fit Body Bootcamp. You could do all these group style classes by doing like a weekend cert or an online cert and calling it a day. And you have nothing helping you to properly train people. You just know the system and know how to coach the system. You don't know how to keep people out of pain, to make the proper adjustments when needed, certain things as far as form. Like there's a lot of things that go into being a high quality trainer that sometimes these group programs just do not focus on. Now, that being said, there are some places that have incredible instructors that should be training on their own, but they really like the group aspect, so they just stay there. So there are those diamonds in the rough, but you're more likely to get the lower quality of trainer because it's more of an entry-level position, and people usually filter their way out and make their way to one-on-one training or semi-private, or maybe an industry that is totally different completely. Or they're just doing it, like the people that stay usually are doing it as like a side gig. Like maybe they have a spouse who's a really good, has a good income. So they want to do that because it makes them happy and they feel really fulfilled doing the job. But that also leads to that comfort level of possibly not going to continue your education and not progressing and being the best that you could possibly be. It's like, oh no, this is like filling my cup, so I'm good. So that is a possible risk. Again, not trying to paint this like every single instructor, but it can happen a lot of the times. It also has the least individual attention because obviously you're in a big group, so you're not going to get that trainer all to yourself. And if you do try to do that, it really pulls away from the class and you end up being that person in class that the other people don't like and the instructor definitely doesn't like, because they want to give everybody an awesome experience, not just you. And then on top of that, we've got a higher risk for injury just because we're not getting that one-on-one attention. So if you are doing something incorrectly, you might be doing 3, 4, 5 reps, maybe a whole round or two, doing it in a way that's pissing off a joint. And by the time that the instructor gets to you, you're like, ow, instead of, oh, they caught it right in the moment and corrected it right at that second. And now, last but not least, my preferred model, my favorite model, and something that's catching a lot of popularity because it's just better overall for everybody involved, is semi-private and also called small group. And that's where it's like 4 to 6 people. So it's not one-on-one. It's not 20 something people. It's like 4 to 6. And I've heard of some people doing it like 4 to 8 people. Now, the pros are it's about half the cost of a one-on-one trainer, roughly. It all depends on the place, but in general, it's kind of about that rate. You're usually looking at around $30 to $40-ish per session, and that comes with a lot more individualization. Usually, I say usually because, again, I'm not going to keep repeating it, but when it comes to individualized programming, when you do semi-private, because it's only X amount of people, you can make everybody's program pretty much from scratch or off of a template and then adjust based on their needs. So for FIT40, for example, I will have a standard set program that everybody is on. And then I go in and say, okay, this person can't do that, so I'm going to swap this in. Or they can't do that, I'm going to swap that in. And then that way, they're getting a totally individualized program that they feel like not only are they getting treated well, but also they're part of a group. And there is some overlap where they're doing similar, if not the same exercises, which allows for the community aspect of a group where it's like, we're doing this together. Doesn't this one kind of suck? Yeah, it does, but we're in this together. So there is the pro of that. And if you've got a really good group of people, it could be a really tight-knit community. Like it'll be that next level of closeness, I guess you could say, because in a group of 20, you may get lost in the crowd. But when it's a group of like 4, you're all pretty cool with each other. You're all in the same area, feeling like, okay, we're all coming together for a common goal. We all have similar priorities, and you get to chat a little bit more and be a little bit more intimate with the person that might be working out right next to you. What else we got? And the top of the top, scheduling. When it comes to scheduling, it's usually a lot better than the other two due to the fact that, number one, you don't necessarily need to fill up the class like crazy. Like if you have 4 slots and you get 2 or 3 people, it's like, okay, you're making enough for that trainer to get paid and to justify having the hour on the schedule. So from a business standpoint, it makes sense. And on top of that, if for some reason you have to reschedule, cancel, whatever, you have up to these 4 slots. So assuming one's not packed, then you can shift around with relative ease. Like I know with FIT40 right now, you could pretty much, like, there's always at least 1, maybe 2 openings per hour. So you can slide in like no problem. And then it just comes down to whatever the policy is as far as cancellation and reschedule, like timing wise. But I've worked like not only my own business, I've also worked in another gym that does the semi-private model. And it's pretty easy to just tell somebody, yeah, come in an hour or like, oh yeah, you can't make it this week. We'll bump you into next week at around this hour. And it's really seamless and easy for the most part, assuming you're not going to a gym that is like jam packed. But I have yet to meet anybody who has a gym that's like, oh, can't get you in anywhere. Like there's some people I know that have like 4, 5, 600 members and their scheduling is fine. Cons. So it is not as much individual attention as one-on-one. Like you don't have that person with you for the entire hour. They're kind of making their rounds and making sure everybody's good to go. But that might be a good thing if you are that person who doesn't want somebody like on you for the entire hour and you don't feel that awkwardness of not knowing what to talk about. So it can possibly be a benefit. There's also a chiller vibe. So if you're not that type of person that wants a high energy, like music blasting, a lot of people doing their workout all together, that's not your vibe, then it could be a pro. Like it will be a much more relaxed style session, but you're still going to work hard. You're still going to do all these things, but smaller groups just tend to bring a lot less craziness. So there's that. And then it's slightly more expensive than group, again, depending on where you go. So group, like being that, what was it? OrangeTheory was $180. So that's, let's call it 45-ish per week. And you could get around $30 to $45 per session for groups. So you can do like, I think 2 or 3 sessions for, I'm not even going to attempt that math. You guys can figure that out. But it all just comes down to like what your budget is at the end of the day and what exactly you need. Do you need everything I'm talking about? Do you not need certain things? And you can figure that out. And along with what I just talked about as far as training, there's add-ons as well. There's online. So I know for FIT40, I will program things online for people to follow at a separate gym. Like we have awesome gyms around here in Greenville, like Champions. The Planet Fitness is awesome. And I tell people all the time, go there when you're not in session. I'll program another workout or 2 for you to do on your own. And then we have like our one or two together. And that could be an option. Also Zoom. We always have a Zoom session each hour. A Zoom slot for each hour. So one person could be on Zoom, whether they're not in the area. So if like you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I want to do that, but you're not in Greenville, North Carolina, you could take the Zoom slot. That's an option. Or when people go on vacation, they're like, I don't want to lose my momentum. It's like, cool, you don't have to. Just make sure that you have Wi-Fi reception somewhere and let's knock out your workout. So that could be something, but it also depends on what you're looking for, because for me, with FIT40, we do it where I'm watching you and treating you as if you're in your own section in the gym. And I'm actually verbally communicating with you saying, how does that feel? What do you have access to? Let's do this. Whereas some places, like I know there's a really awesome place in town called Yoga Strong, and they have their virtual classes, but it's a different vibe. It's yoga. Like with yoga, you kind of want to be in your own headspace, but you want an instructor telling you what to do. So they have the instructor telling them, but they're not like doing the back and forth communication like that. So again, depends on what you're looking for and what you need. Then there's nutrition. So when it comes to nutrition, is that an extra cost? With FIT40, it comes with it. So you're getting not just the training, but you're also getting nutrition. So you're getting the full experience and you're getting everything you need to get the results that you want. If body composition is a concern or just trying to improve your overall health. Some people just want training, and that's fine because maybe they have the others covered, whether they have a dietitian in their corner, a nutritionist or something like that, and they just want the training. That works great. But if you do want the nutrition, it's worth looking into because a lot of places will charge extra for that. And then support outside of the gym. Does what you're looking at, is it just when you're there for the hour, that's all you get? It's like, all right, awesome session, see you next time. Or are you able to contact your coach outside of the gym and ask, hey, I've got a dinner coming up. What should I do about this? Like, what are some tips for eating, like staying on plan? Or, oh, I like twisted my ankle. Like, how should I adjust my program when I'm not in the gym? Or are there any stretches I can do to make sure that I speed up the recovery? And then you can get feedback from them and actually improve your results, getting back to 100% faster and all that. So is that included? Is it an upcharge? Again, things to ask. But guess what? FIT40 comes with that too. So it's like you're getting all of these things for the same price as some places charge for just training. So just to wrap this all up, at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, number one, what do you need? Okay. If it's accountability, all of these will work. It just matters like what kind of accountability you want. Do you want to be in a group? Do you want to be one-on-one, or do you want the one-on-one experience with a touch of group where we have that middle ground that has everything that we talked about? So is that good for you? Is it the right fit? Is it something that's within your budget? Because this all matters. It all plays a role, and you definitely want to make the best decision for yourself, because this honestly is one of those most important things that you can decide on. Because when people find their home, when they find that hub, that location where they're like, this is my place, that could literally change your life. It could change your health. It can change the experiences that you have with your family going forward. Like, this is a very big deal. So I hope that this illuminated you a little bit on exactly what's out there, like what the options are, what to expect. And yeah, if you have any questions on anything that I just talked about, reach out to me over email, brian@fit40coaching.com. Happy to talk more about this stuff. And if you want to get in on the in-person training, like if you're in Greenville, North Carolina, or Winterville, or any of the Aden, any of those neighboring areas, and you want to come in and see what it's about, then go ahead, go down below, click the link, set up an intro call. Let's talk about it. And even if you're not in the area, like if you are like, oh, I want to try out that Zoom session. Like, I want to see what Zoom during the in-person sessions is like. Again, hit that same link, click, it will set up an intro call. We'll answer all your questions and talk about exactly what it entails, and we'll take it from there. All right. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you sticking with me all the way through. I will see you next time. But until then, go kick some ass. Bye-bye.